Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're building a special toolkit just for you, specifically for that upcoming conflict management assignment. We're going to pull some of the most powerful ideas right from your readings to give you a solid framework for analyzing and, yeah, remixing pretty much any conflict you can think of. So, here's how we're going to do this. We've got 4 parts. First, we'll look at how to get creative and break through deadlocks. Then, we're going to decode the cultural programming that drives how people act in a fight. After that, we'll open up a playbook of universal mediation tricks. And finally, we'll head into your own personal AI lab to put all these tools to work on your assignment. Okay, first up, this section is all about the single most powerful weapon you have in any argument, your creativity. Seriously, this is how you smash through those stalemates that feel totally hopeless and actually start designing a path forward. This quote from the amazing social theorist Mary Parker Follett is really our North Star here. Conflict makes us feel trapped, right? It feels like an either-or choice, where somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. Follett is telling us no. Reject that premise. Don't let yourself get bullied by those 2 bad options. The real goal is to invent a third, better alternative that nobody saw coming. So, the key skill, the absolute magic trick, is learning to see what's underneath the surface. In a conflict, people state their positions, the hardline demands, the what. I need a raise. But buried under every position are the interests, the why. Why do they need that raise? Maybe the real interest is a need for recognition, or a feeling of unfairness, or maybe it's just that the cost of living is crushing them. Their positions might be opposites, but their interests, that's where you find all the good stuff for a creative solution. Now, this 2-step process looks so simple, but it is revolutionary. For a little while, your only job is to invent. No judging, no criticizing, no, that'll never work. Just go wild, generating options. What about a new job title, or flexible hours, or a super high-profile project? You physically separate the act of creating from the act of judging. And that one little change lets you make the pie bigger before you even think about how to slice it up. And don't for a second think this is just some fluffy technique for a workplace retreat. I mean, look at this. This is how you end wars. The Colombian peace talks. These folks were trying to end a 50-year-long conflict. And what did they do? They gathered at a villa, put up flip charts next to a swimming pool, and just started brainstorming. They dug into each side's deep interest to build a real path to peace. It all started right there, on a flip chart. So if interests are the why, then culture is kind of like the deep programming that shapes that why. Let's start unpacking these cultural codes that dictate how people handle conflict, because this is probably one of the most interesting variables you can start changing in your AI remix. To really get this right, we've got to be more specific than just saying individualism versus collectivism. This framework is way better. It gives us 2 key questions. First, do people care more about their own independence or about their connection to the group? And second, do they see the world as a competitive ladder, a hierarchy, or as a flat, equal playing field? That gives us these 4 really distinct patterns, and they predict how people will act way more accurately. And this table right here, this is your secret weapon for the assignment. It literally connects the dots for you. So, take someone with a vertical individualist view. They like being independent and accept hierarchy. Their main concern is going to be for themselves, for their own gains. And what strategy does that lead to? Forcing. Now compare that to someone with a horizontal collectivist view. They value the group and equality. Their concern is mutual gains, which leads to a problem-solving strategy. This is the exact logic you'll use to explain the changes in your AI scenarios. Okay, so culture creates all these predictable differences. But what about the stuff that's the same everywhere? Let's flip the coin and open up the mediator's playbook. Because there are universal things that just make conflict resolution more likely no matter where on Earth you are. This chart reveals a fundamental law of conflict. Context is king. I mean, look at this. A massive study of societies all over the world found that you are way, way more likely to solve a conflict inside a small personal group, like family, than you are in some big, formal political setting. This is a huge clue for your assignment.
The setting of your conflict isn't just window dressing, it's a critical variable that can completely change the odds of success.
So what actually works in all these different places? Well, these are the greatest hits. The same study found that no matter the culture, successful mediators tend to share these qualities. They have good people skills, and everyone sees them as fair. They don't just boss people around, they offer advice and direction. These are basically the levers you can pull as a third party to help people find a resolution. And you can build these traits right into the characters in your scenarios.
All right, section 4. Time to get our hands dirty. We've got our tools right. We have creativity, the culture codes, and the mediator's playbook. Now let's walk through exactly how you're going to use them in your AI conflict lab for this big remix assignment.
So, quick refresher. Your mission is to be a conflict analyst. You're going to use AI to create different versions of a conflict by changing key things like culture or setting. And then, this is the important part, you're going to use the theories we've just talked about to explain why the communication changes.
So let's try it. Here's a move. Ask your AI to rewrite a scene, but change one character's cultural code from VI to HC. Then you pull out our little cheat sheet from section 2 and explain what happened. How did their main concern shift from being all about me to being about us? And how did that change their strategy from a forcing, competitive style to a collaborative, problem-solving one?
Okay, next variable, setting. Take that same conflict out of the official boardroom and drop it into a family barbecue. How does shifting from that formal political context to an informal kin context change how people talk to each other? Does that new, more personal setting make it easier for someone to step in and use those universal skills we saw, being fair and giving good advice?
And finally, let's use that AI as your creative sidekick. Feed it the underlying interests of your characters, not just their surface-level positions. Then prompt it. Using our invent first, evaluate later rule, brainstorm 10 new, concrete options that could meet those needs. Really push it to get weird and move beyond the obvious stuff. See if it can expand that pie for you. As you think about how to find these breakthroughs, I want to leave you with this one last amazing idea from the world of high-stakes negotiation. It's the concept of wizards. Wizards aren't the big bosses. They're the smart, trusted people, often at a lower level, who can have those informal, off-the-record chats to explore creative ideas without getting anyone in trouble. They work in the shadows to find a way through the deadlock. And that brings me to my final question, and it's really for you. As you analyze your conflict, as you remix it and search for those creative solutions that actually serve everyone's interests, could you be the wizard? Could your analysis be the very thing that finds that informal, creative space where the impossible suddenly becomes possible? That's the real power you have in this assignment. Now go build something great.